Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning. I pray that you had a blessed week. My name is John Thomason. I am the lead minister here at Buckeye Christian Church. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank the women's ministry for all the gifts that they actually gave to the men, women, and kids at the LSS mission to give them at Christmas. So we're going to post a picture here for you guys to see. There's so many gifts that they were able to collect, and it was a really short notice, so we did it all in about 10 days. So I just want to say thank you so much for being able to bless these people and give them a good Christmas. Now, as a whole church, as we said before, the whole month of December, we're going to be collecting food donations also for the Lutheran Social Services mission, but it is obviously something different. Those were toys and presents that are collected, but we're going to be doing a food drive. Last year, they supplied over 1.5 million meals to those in need right here in Columbus. And so we have a list of things that you can get at our newcomers table if you're here in person, or you can go out and check us out on Facebook, or you can go to our website, buckeyecc.org, where it actually will pop up at the bottom, and you can click on the flyer there to support the LSS mission and go ahead and grab different foods that they're looking for so they can feed those that are in need. We're going to be collecting these items all the way through December. Just drop them off during our regular business hours here, Monday through Friday, 10 to 4 p.m. Or obviously you can bring them in on Sunday mornings if you show up on Sunday mornings. And we just want to make that grow. We want to make this big old mountain of stuff that we're going to end up giving to those that are in need in our community here. We're also doing something a little extra for one of our overseas mission. The mission is the Yucatan Peninsula Christian Mission. It's a mission that equips local men to minister to their areas down there in Mexico. So the YPCM actually has a new minister that has just joined the mission field down there. His name is Yeri and his wife Valeria. They're currently living in a single room behind the church while their actual house is being built. But for moving from one area to another to this new home, they don't have what they need. They don't have the bare necessities. They don't have a fridge and couch and all these different things. So throughout the month of December, Buckeye, we're going to be collecting special donations for Yeri and his wife Valeria, so we can help them out when they're starting this new ministry down the Yucatan there. We're hoping to raise $1,000 over the month of December, so then we can go ahead and give that to them and bless them also for Christmas time, so that they can really just get their feet wet in ministry, not have to worry about those things that come along with it, like having a couch. So we're really excited to see what you guys can do. It was really awesome to see which the women's ministry did there. So if we could come together as a church and just get all this just really piled up high so we can just bless all these people. We will be having our Christmas Eve service on Thursday night. It will be at 3:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. So we'll be having two of them, and both of them will have children's services. So please feel free to come to either one. We're very excited to be able to still meet in person and do this. So if you know anybody that is looking for a place to go on Christmas Eve also, and then 3:30, 6 p.m., go ahead and check those out. Well, last week we started our new series titled The Gift. When we think about Christmas time, there really is so much that is centered around gifts themselves. Whether you're giving them or you're getting them, it's inevitable that this is going to happen around this time of year. Somebody is going to maybe drop something off for you, or you're thinking about what you want to get somebody. The thing is, I've gotten some pretty sweet gifts over my lifetime. Last week I talked about some really strange gifts and about how my perception was off with them, because they were good gifts, but they were a little strange. But this week I wanted to talk about some of the really awesome gifts that I had actually gotten when I was younger. I think one of my favorite ones was I got what was called a creepy crawler oven, and it really was like this fire hazard little oven that had this hot metal plate, and like they had the easy bake ovens for girls, well, they had the creepy crawler oven for boys, and what it was is you had this hot metal plate that would go in, but you would squeeze this liquid plastic that would like melt and turn into like a rubbery consistency, and it would all be heated by this light bulb, and it really could make these little rubber bug things. It was so strange, but I remember it was so cool because you could squirt it in and stick it in, and you had this plate that was super hot, and I swear I burnt myself like 50 times on it, and the fumes that were coming out of it were just so disgusting smelling. But then when it was done and you pulled them out and you had these little wiggly things, it was pretty cool. So I really enjoyed the creepy crawly oven. But there's obviously the other other things too that a lot of people do where they give them, the bikes. And so I have the memory of getting a bike and learning how to ride. And then I had some action figures that I actually still have currently in my office. If you've never seen my office, it's just a giant nerdtopia of all the action figures and things that I've collected since I was a child. But for Christians, we're focusing on something that is so much different. It's a different kind of gift, and that is the birth, the life, and the death of Jesus Christ. We're doing things a little bit different this year. Instead of ending the sermon series on the birth of Jesus Christ on Christmas Eve, what we're going to do on Christmas Eve service is we're going to end with talking about the gift of his death, because it really is a positive thing. It's a great thing. And I know it has horrible circumstances that surround what happened, but the gift that God gave us through his death really is a wonderful and magical thing. But last week we talked about his birth as well, about how that really was surrounded by some crazy things as well. It's about how miraculous it really was. And it's not because it's this beautiful picture that we think of where, the ox and the lamb are stamping in time and everybody comes around to just awe at baby Jesus. And it's all so bright and wonderful and glorious and joy and perfect. But that's not why it was miraculous. The reason it was miraculous is because of all the things that had to happen for Jesus to be born. So we started out with Joseph finding out that the woman that he was to be married to, that she is pregnant, and he has this dream because he's thinking, I'm going to divorce her because she's pregnant with someone else's child. But in this dream, he's told that, it's okay, that this pregnancy is from the Holy Spirit and that Joseph needs to be the heavenly father and raise this child and call him Jesus. So Joseph agrees to do this. And then you find out about that there's the king of the land that hears that there's this king that is being born. And so he gets really upset with it. And he decides that I'm going to go ahead and plot against this Jesus. And so he actually meets with these wise men that you know of that bring the frankincense, myrrh, and gold. And they actually meet with Herod, and he's plotting to find where Jesus is. And it's not to celebrate Jesus, but to kill him. But the wise men follow God's direction, telling them to not go to Herod, that he's looking to actually kill the child. And so they go a different way home. But then Mary and Joseph are told by an angel to run to Egypt because the king is mad that the wise men have actually tricked him. And so he's going to just try and kill their son. And so they run out to Egypt. And then Herod gets really angry and does this horrible thing where he goes out and he kills all the babies that are 2 and under in Bethlehem because he was looking for this Jesus. That's a crazy story. That's not the one that we sing about. That's not the one that you hear about in the kids' movies and things like that. It's just a story that is surrounded by all of these terrible things. But the thing is, it's a perfect story. I think we forget, though, too often that it was real. This is what happened. This is the truth of what was going on 2,000 years ago. These were actually people with free will, people who had to choose to follow God and do what he wanted for them. And as we go through this series, we're going to truly look at the gift that God has given us and look at Jesus' life as a whole and all the things and the decisions that were made to make this wonderful gift be fulfilled. And the thing is, it wasn't just his birth, but it was his life, his teachings, and his death. Well, this week we're going to go through a few verses and talk about Jesus as a boy. And the significance of the story that I really want to make is to show you that Jesus lived. It's not just he was born a baby and then boom, he's, an older man that's ready to go out and do ministry. No, there's some time in between and he was a child at one point. And these are things that actually happened. I want you to understand that Jesus grew up. It wasn't just an all of a sudden thing. And it's not just some Lifetime movie where, you get a montage of happy laughing and moving along, or a fairy tale that is just to make us feel good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to read through these verses, but then I really want to paint a picture so you can kind of make it more real to you. And I want to put the emotions and the feelings that would have come with these events. So we're going to read out of Luke 2. It'll be 41 through 52. And here at Buckeye, I read out of the NIV Bible when I am preaching. If you do not have a Bible, please let us know. We will always give away Bibles. It's yours to have, to read it, to use it, to love it. We're always going to give away the Word of God for free here. If you do have a Bible, I urge you to jump in right here with us. If you don't have a Bible, you can always go online to BibleGateway.com or go and get the App U version. My favorite thing is when you follow along with me, you're diving in there and reading it for yourself. So we're going to go ahead and read Luke 2:41 through 52. It says, "Every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. When he was 12 years old, they went up to the festival according to the custom. After the festival was over, while his parents were returning home, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but they were unaware of it. Thinking he was in their company, they traveled on for a day. Then they began looking for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they went back to Jerusalem to look for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, 'Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you.' 'Why were you searching for me?' he asked. 'Didn't you know I had to be in my father's house?' But they did not understand what he was saying to them. Then he went down to Nazareth with them and was obedient to them. But his mother treasured all these things in her heart, and Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man." So the thing is, first of all, most people have no idea what to picture when they hear of 12-year-old Jesus. And actually, I asked somebody that was a little younger recently what you think 12-year-old Jesus would look like. And they said, I don't know, a little guy with a beard. I don't think he had a beard quite yet. But we don't really think about his childhood. We focus so much on his ministries that when he was an adult, or even we focus on just the birth or the death of Christ, that, we don't really think of him being a child or coming up into his teen years. So as we dive in, I want you to picture a young boy of 12 years old, and he's a young Jewish Israelite boy from the Middle East from 2,000 years ago. And the thing is, he ran and he played with the other kids. They had games and laughter and fun. And I know it's hard to picture, but that's where the story begins. It starts with boy Jesus. So the thing is, the Passover festival is about to begin. And this is one of the biggest festivals and celebrations of the year. The Passover is a celebration of the time that the Jews were saved by God when the angel of death came through Egypt so many years ago. And because of it, they were freed from slavery and they were freed to go to the promised land. And so it's kind of a big deal. It's something that they're very excited to celebrate because this is where their people came from. This is where God has taken them from a horrible situation and bring them out to something even better. But the Passover was not held in Jesus' town of Nazareth. It was held in Jerusalem every year. Well, this year, Jesus was going with his mom, Mary, and his dad, Joseph. And more than likely, pretty much the whole community was traveling together. So Jesus, being of Jewish descent, would be super excited about this because he was able to go and see the temple and he was able to go and have some fun. And now this is the time where he gets to take this family road trip to celebrate. So you have Mary, Joseph, Jesus, and you have their family members, their cousins and others that are there. And they would all start on this trip together. And it was a multiple day journey on foot. It's about 70 to 80 miles, but it wasn't just Jesus's family that went. Like I said, it was probably the community. So the whole town, everybody that was Jewish was going to come together. And so there were many other children that were going as well. They had this multiple day road trip to drive their parents insane. And the thought alone of having to travel days on end straight with my kids, like I just think, wow, if I had to take a multiple day trip on foot, I can hear it now. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? It doesn't sound as much fun, but you know what? They're with the whole community. It had to be a good time because they knew what was coming up. And so anyways, as they came into the city of Jerusalem, I'm sure it was quite the spectacle. Like it's like coming from a really small town and now you're going to a large city. So you got the big buildings and the columns and the smells that come with the city, and then you got so many people that are there to celebrate the Passover. It had to have been sensory overload for all the kids and the people coming into the city. And this is including Jesus. And the Jewish people would come there often. So this is something that they're used to doing. It's not like, wow, this is the first time I'm seeing this. No, they would go there a couple times a year. But it's kind of like the fair, like if you're ready for the fair every year, you know what to expect. You know there's going to be people everywhere and the smells and the sounds, but you're still like, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait for the fair to come. Or maybe you have like a large, Christmas gathering that you go to every year. Or, Times Square in New York on New Year's Eve. Like everybody knows what's going to look like, and just all these people just show up. But the thing is, you love going. Well, 12-year-old Jesus was buzzing with excitement of everything that was going on. Different people from all over were joining together to celebrate the Passover. And the Passover festival, though, didn't just happen for a day. Like this wasn't, okay, we came, we celebrate, we went to the fair, it was fun, we did our symbolism of God taking us out of Egypt. No, this was a 7-day celebration. That was a long celebration for the Passover. And sometimes they would stay even longer for other celebrations that were happening around this time of year. So this is a huge ordeal. But if you were to just stay for the Passover, that's like taking a vacation to like this big celebration or party that happens for 7 days. And it's a nice week to get to know people and see new things and have your Passover festivities with everyone. And as an adult, I imagine, you'd have a great time, but by the end of the week, you're probably thinking about going home. It's about time. I've got my responsibilities. I got things I got to take care of, and it's time to go. Well, the Passover's coming to a close, and Jesus, being who he is, he stops in at the temple where the lawmakers and the priests are teaching. And since the festival is over now, everyone is starting to head back to their hometowns. And I'm sure there was lots of laughter in the air. You're reminiscing, oh, did you see that thing that happened on this day? Or wasn't it awesome what was happening here? And did you try this food? And lots of just talking about all the good company that you've had. Well, as Jesus' parents walked towards home, they had not seen their boy Jesus. And you have to remember, though, there's a lot of people traveling with them. You got lots of kids, lots of family, lots of friends. And with all the fun that was being had by everyone, more than likely, Mary and Joseph thought, you know what? He's just hanging with his cousins. They're just having a good time. Well, as the day passed and the next morning rose, Mary and Joseph decide that we need to go look for our son. So they decide, where's Jesus? I imagine the discussion starting between Mary and Joseph as something simple and innocent. Hey, have you seen Jesus around? And no, I haven't seen him. Have you? No. Okay, well, let's go ahead and check with the relatives and the friends. And so, they say, have you seen Jesus? And then they get a no, and then they go to their other cousins and, hey, have you seen my son? Have you seen Jesus anywhere? No. And then just when you keep finding out that he's not there, do you know where my boy Jesus is? I can't find him. I haven't seen him anywhere. But no one knew where he was. No one has seen their 12-year-old boy. 12 years old. He's not a man quite yet. Not really someone you'd want to leave to survive in a city for days. So they thought, you know what, maybe he stayed in Jerusalem. He's not traveling with us. We can't find him. So they head back to Jerusalem. The biggest problem is that they had already had a day's walk towards home. And so they have now another day's walk to see if their son is still in Jerusalem. I can't imagine the sweat, the heart beating fast, the worry. It says that she was anxious. Mary was anxious, but if I was in her shoes, I'd be anxious as well. And then if I knew this was God's son and I had lost him, oh my goodness. Worrisome thoughts just flowing through their minds. What happened to my son? My 12-year-old son has been alone for days in the big city. On the third day, as Joseph and Mary were searching throughout the city, they spot Jesus He's sitting with the teachers and the priests at the temple. He's listening to them and he's asking them questions. As this 12-year-old boy speaks, it says that he has the attention of all of these men. Mary and Joseph were stunned. And it's because at this time, not just any adult was allowed to just sit down and ask questions to these men, let alone a boy of 12 years old. As they approached the men and Jesus, they could see how the men were impressed by their son, about how he had such an understanding of the law and the Bible. When the discussions have ended, Mary takes Jesus aside, being relieved that she found her son unharmed. I'm sure she wanted to hug him and hold him because he's right there. But she's also confused why he has done what he's done. It's unlike the blind rage that I would have had. I'd be like, that's it, son. You're going on a leash for the rest of your life. No, she just has this confusion. And Mary asks her son, why have you done this to us? We've been searching for you everywhere. We're worrying about what has happened to you. Jesus replies, though, with an answer only Jesus can, but from the mouth of a 12-year-old, because Jesus was 12. He just says, why are you searching for me? That sounds like something my child would say to me. Why were you even looking for me? I don't understand. What's the confusion? The thing is, I'm sure my kid would have a little bit more sass in that, but, well, let me think, child. How about the fact that you're 12 and you're alone in the big city? But Jesus wasn't saying this like any other 12-year-old child. He says, didn't you know that I would be in my Father's house? This moment right here, I think this is the point where Jesus really starts to see who he is and what he's supposed to be doing. And that Mary seems confused about what's going on here. But she has to know a little bit that, okay, he's not just the little boy anymore. He's actually fulfilling his life as God's son. And the thing is, with love and understanding, they take Jesus and they start to walk back home. They didn't truly understand what was going on and what was happening, but they knew that Jesus has now started on his path. And what part I love about this is that it says Jesus went with them to Nazareth, that he was obedient to them. He has just shown that he is wise beyond his years, that he is truly special, that he is the Son of God. But the thing is, he was still a boy. He still had parents that he had to listen to. He was obedient to their teachings and their rules. And the thing is, this is not just a fun story. This is truth. This is what happened in their life. This is what happened as Mary and Joseph, as the parents of Jesus. They lost their son. Straight out of Home Alone. Where's my son? I don't know where he is. The thing is, though, this is the beginning of Jesus' journey to show that he is the Messiah, that he is the Son of God, our Lord. The fact that he lives, he went through life just as we did. He started out as a child, just like you and me. This makes the life of Jesus so much more relatable. To know that he walked as we walked, but to also know that he came with a purpose, that he came to change everything. Well, my challenge for you this week is for you to live this out as truth. His birth is not just some story. Yeah, Jesus was born just like you and I. He breathed the same air that we breathe. He walked on the same earth that we walk. He grew up with parents. He had decisions to make. But more importantly, the fact that he was real and to know that he was blameless his whole life, that he was pure, that he was perfect, and was all so that his death would be the gift and the sacrifice that we need to save us. My challenge for you is to understand that this is real. This is not just a story to celebrate during Christmas time. This is an everyday thing. Jesus was here. This week I want us to go out and tell everybody. This is not just some movie. This is not just some song. This is not just some book. This is truth. This is what happened. He lived. He was a child, but he was different. Let's go ahead and pray. God, thank you so much for this wonderful day. Thank you for every opportunity you give us to learn about you. I love reading this story because it shows us that Jesus was a kid too, but he wasn't an ordinary kid. But his parents were just regular people as well, just trying to make do. I pray that we can go throughout this week and let everybody know Jesus lived. Jesus is real. That he lived right here on this earth. And that we're celebrating his birth, his life, and his death throughout this time. We thank you. In his name I pray. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining me here this morning. If you could go to buckeyecc.org and go and fill out a Connect card. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any prayer requests or anything like that, please let us know on there. We also have our Give button that you can go ahead and click on if you want to help us with the ministries and things that we have going on here. You can do a one-time donation. You can do monthly donations if you're a person like me that always seems to forget. We also have the YPCM, the Yucatan Peninsula Christian Mission, that we're supporting as well throughout the month of December. So you can click on that general fund and change it to the Yucatan, so that way you can give specifically to them to help out Gary and Valeria through their mission. I just want to thank you guys for joining me here, and I really hope we get to see you either in person soon, or we can catch you on Christmas Eve service at 3:30 or 6 o'clock. God bless.